there's one series that I can say has been through a lot over the years, it's Star Fox. Star Fox has had a wacky history in Nintendo's insane library of games, but it has also recently become one of my absolute favorite franchises Nintendo has ever produced. So, a while back in March, I decided to go back and look at some of the old Star Fox games. And one of the games that stood out to me the most was Star Fox Assault, a game that came out in 2005 and became a game that kind of mixed Star Wars Battlefront with Star Fox. This game is honestly one of the more enjoyable Star Fox titles, at least to me. Since Star Fox is now coming to the Switch too, I decided to finally make a video about Star Fox for the first time ever. I've mentioned my love for Star Fox before, but never really made a whole video about it. So, time to change that. Is Star Fox Assault an underappreciated gem of the Star Fox games, or is it doomed to be remembered as a Star Fox game that got overshadowed by its cult classic predecessor Star Fox 64 and other shooter games like Halo and Metal Gear Solid? Will it ever get ported to the Switch too? Well, let's talk about it. Star Fox Assault opens up with the Cornerian army attempting to corner and apprehend a tyrannical ape named Andrew Oinkany, the nephew of the late Andros. We all know him, floating head ape. Yeah, that guy. Anyway, Star Fox shows up, as usual, ready to help the Cornerians apprehend Andrew, after chasing him down to Fortuna and engaging him in a quick dogfight, which serves as a sort of prologue boss fight with a small reference to Andros, which makes sense. Andrew is his nephew. So, he's likely to just snatch his uncle's strategy right there and then. After defeating him, Andrew is suddenly shot down by a stray beam and a giant alien space butterfly-looking thing spirals out of the sky, having been the one who finished Andrew off. However, it quickly turns on Star Fox as well and almost torches Crystal's Arwing and Crystal along with it, which was pretty uncalled for. She's the last known Serenian, you know, you big dumb bug. Anyway, you take on the Aperoid, and after defeating it, you nab something from the remains of the Aperoid, only to see that this thing didn't come alone. It brought a lot of friends, which ends up forcing Star Fox to retreat, seeing as they struggled so much with just one Aperoid. After retreating, Star Fox meets with General Peppard and the research director, Beltino Toad, and they reveal that the Lilat system is in some pretty deep trouble this time around. Beltino reveals that apparently 17 years ago, an entire Cornerian fleet was decimated by a sole Aperoid, with only a few survivors remaining to tell the tale. Soon after that, the Aperoid disappeared without a trace and went dormant. But that was just a taste of what was to come. Beltino also informs Star Fox that the core memory, the thing that Fox retrieved from the Aperoid on Fortuna, is being analyzed, but the specimen isn't complete. And if they had a full specimen, they could learn a lot more if they analyzed it. This is where the game truly kicks off into high gear, as Star Fox is soon sent off to investigate a base on Katina that has gone completely radio silent, but is transmitting a distress signal. Fox McCloud flies on over to check it out, battles some Aperoid, faces off with a giant Aperoid, defeats it, tries to snatch the core memory it was carrying, only to be outdone by Pigma Dengar, and it turns into a giant cat and mouse chase to apprehend Pigma and get the core memory back. More like Fox and Pig chase, but I don't think that's important. Now, that's the basic story of this game. There are alien bug cyborgs invading the Lilat system, and it's up to Star Fox to try and stop them and save the system for the umpteenth time. That's actually a pretty unique story though, definitely one of the more interesting stories I've seen in Star Fox games, right next to Adventures that is. As you continue on in the game, the plot continues to unravel through mission dialogue before and after the missions, and even in between missions you'll get these cutscenes, which is honestly pretty dope. This game does a pretty decent job fleshing out the lore of the Lilat system, fleshing out the characters a bit more than the other games did, and at the same time, having a new threat that actually seems like a pretty huge threat that needs to be taken pretty dang seriously. Rather than just Starwolf coming back for the umpteenth time and nipping at Star Fox's tailpipes, or even worse, Andros being revived somehow and gunning after Fox McCloud for like, what, the 12th time or something like that? Honestly, Andross as a villain is way overused, and it was really nice to see a new threat coming in and actually posing some pretty serious danger. But yeah, here's a bit of information about the Aperoids. The Aperoids actually fit the bill of good and threatening villains with only one target on their mind: assimilation. The Aperoids are being led by the Aperoid Queen, and they are very, very, very dangerous. Being able to not just take over other machines, but they can also take over life forms as well, like they do with Pigma Dengar and later on General Pepper. The thing I like most about the Aperoids compared to the other villains in the Star Fox universe, such as General Scales or Andross — General Scales got done dirty by the way — is that there are no sides with these guys. They do not care who they target, no matter what. They want to take down anything, anyone, and yet everyone and everything in their path at the same time. Basically, there are no sides when it comes to the Aperoids. They are determined to essentially assimilate everything and everyone into their hive mind. Yeah, pretty dang creepy, but at the same time, they're pretty good villains. Anyway, that's the basics of the story here in Assault. But what about the gameplay? Well, there's two types of gameplay here: the vehicle combat system and the on-foot combat system. As usual with Star Fox games, we're flying R-Wings in turbulent dogfights in space and even in the air of some planets. Basically, the vehicle combat is a rip from the previous Star Fox games where you just shoot down enemies, keep your allies alive, and try your best not to get blasted out of the sky. Or even worse, shoot your allies down! Basically, you use A to shoot the lasers, B to launch the smart bombs, engine boost with Y, use the C stick to do a somersault to dodge enemy fire, L trigger to barrel roll, brake with the R trigger, and try your best to take down foes around you without taking too much damage. Another thing you want to do is keep your allies alive. They are actually pretty helpful at times. Crystal utilizes her telepathic abilities to inform you of the foe's weak points. Slippy analyzes their shield and will keep you posted on how much HP you gotta take out. And Falco will occasionally drop off some smart bombs to aid you in battle. Just go pick them up and they're ready to launch. If one of them ends up going down during a mission, they will return to the Great Fox, but will be okay and return to the fight on the next mission. However, you will get docked points, sadly. And while it can be tricky to keep them alive, it's actually helpful if you end up getting yourself in a pinch. There's also the sections where you play whilst riding an R-Wing, and you gotta keep the Aperoids off the R-Wing with a plasma rocket cannon launcher thing. I think it's a cannon. But with that aside, those sections were especially fun for me to play because it added another level of difficulty, and it was rather interesting to ride around on the outside of an R-Wing. But I do have one question here. Does Fox have magnetizing boots or something here? How is he not falling off? Is he just that good? He's probably wearing magnetized boots, let's be real here. Then there's the on-foot combat system. It's as simple as it sounds, but oh gosh, these missions play so differently compared to the missions in the air. First of all, you're on foot. You gotta run amok around the map, utilizes Fox's blaster, and blast all the Aperoids to dust. Fox can shoot, roll to dodge incoming fire, and you can even get other weapons to help you out better with the current situation, such as a machine gun, a sniper rifle, a gosh darn rocket launcher, grenades, and a couple others. Like I said before, Fox can roll to dodge enemies, but he can also jump, which is pretty good to avoid obstacles and enemies. One thing I do want to point out though, Fox can also run pretty darn fast, which is pretty helpful in this game because you gotta be constantly on your toes so you don't get overwhelmed by the Aperoids. Because trust me, these guys seem to come out of nowhere. Also in some levels like Saria for example, both the R-Wing and Landmaster are available to use. Changing the way you end up playing the level. You either stick to the air and blast the enemies up there, or you stick to the ground and blast the enemies around there. The bosses in this game, they were a bit of a mixed bag. Some were easy as pie for me to breeze through, then there were others that made me want to rip my hair out. I think the two hardest bosses were Mission 7, War Comes Home boss, which is General Pepper being possessed by the Aperoids. I say this mainly because you're on Wolf's Wolfen in almost the entire level, including the boss fight, which will really throw a wrench in the works here. The thing that makes this boss fight so damn hard is, well, there's many factors, but one of the big ones is the fact that there are no checkpoints in this area. None whatsoever. And for me, someone who relies on checkpoints a lot in video games, that's a recipe for disaster right there. Then there's also the fact that this onslaught from the general is never ending, and Wolf's flying is erratic as heck, mainly because he, like anyone flying a ship, does not want to get shot down, let alone by the general of Corneria's forces. But with all those factors combined, that makes trying to hit this damn ship even harder! Wolf, stabilize this ship so I can hit this overgrown mech, will ya? Then there's the Aperoid Queen. This thing is just... oh my gosh! This thing is mean on both phases on so many levels that it is just... it's nuts. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything else about this boss fight because I do want you all to experience the chaos for yourself. I'd even go as far to say that this boss was one of the hardest video game bosses I'd ever taken on in my life. Yes, I struggled that much with it. Is it a skill issue? Probably. But then again, it's my issue to deal with. One quick thing I do want to bring up is that after completing each mission, you will get a score and a medal depending on the score and how quick you were. There is a mission log, so you can go back, replay the mission, and attempt to beat your previous score. My personal favorite missions to replay were easily either Ficina or Corneria. Yeah, I don't like the boss in Corneria, but Ficina is still actually pretty fun. Mainly because of the idea of riding Falco's R-Wing or Wolf's Wolfen is just... I love that idea. Are you seeing a pattern here? But yeah, if you go back and also complete all the levels without Falco, Slippy, or Crystal retiring from the mission, you can unlock Wolf O'Donnell for multiplayer mode. Now, I personally have never experienced multiplayer mode because no one wanted to play with me, so I didn't get to experience it, and therefore, I can't really talk about it. Still kinda sad about that one, not gonna lie. One thing I can talk about, though, is the music. Oh my freaking gosh, the music is truly some of my all-time favorite Star Fox music out there. I don't know what it is about Star Fox music, but it's truly magical and almost never fails in terms of the music department. There's something about Star Fox music that just, it never fails to be catchy, especially in Star Fox Assault. The music is fast-paced, emotional at points, and it really makes the stakes feel pretty dang high. And considering the situation, I'd say that fits really, really well here. There are some absolute banger soundtracks in this game, such as Space Battleground, which later on appeared in a cutscene in the Subspace Emissary in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Fun fact, that music is some of the best opening music I've ever seen in a video game ever. You know you're in for something insanely special when you hear that music come on. The Saria theme is easily the best mission music out there, hands down. Even though the mission can be pretty dang confusing at times. Overall, it's definitely my favorite mission music. But these tracks don't got nada on the Star Wolf track. This game also introduced what I'd call the best Star Wolf theme ever. Like, listen to this damn music and tell me that this shit doesn't slap. The music devs did not have to go this hard in terms of making a track for Star Wolf, but they did. Goodness gracious, I love this track so much I can listen to it all day. This piece of music is genuinely one of the best soundtracks in the entire Star Fox series. Another thing that I do love about this game is the fact that this game wasn't afraid to write a darker story than the games that came before. It was actually pretty dang dark. The idea of the Aperoids being able to take over living people's wills, possess machinery, and overall destroy anything and everything in their paths was pretty terrifying to say the least. Like, look at that and tell me that isn't something out of a horror movie. Then again, this game was rated T for teens. A rarity for Nintendo nowadays, but then again, you guys gotta remember something. This was 2005, and I guess Nintendo was willing to let this slide? Hey, we got a pretty cool story out of it though, so I'm not gonna complain. I also love how this game shows that Wolf O'Donnell has some modicum of honor, but is also still as ruthless as ever. Let me just break this down here. I personally love how Wolf O'Donnell, the big bad Star Wolf himself, realizes that if the Aperoids kill Fox and his team and the entire galaxy is under their control, he won't get the chance to finish everything fair and square. So he teams up with Fox and Co to stop the Aperoids. No, they don't become friends, they team up. There is a big difference. Wolf isn't interested in making friends. He even says it in the game himself. If anyone's gonna tan your hide, it's gonna be me. Whoa. Good goodness, Wolf. Well, at least we know where your priorities lie. Yeah, that was a really cool storyline that we haven't really seen before or since Star Fox Assault. It's an interesting story that I'd love to see return someday. I don't think it will, but hey, one can hope, right? As much as I could glaze the heck out of Star Fox Assault, I'll be one of the first to admit that this game does have some problems. But before we get to those problems, I want to say this. Star Fox Assault was initially supposed to be released in April of 2003, but due to its first version not performing well, Nintendo sent it back to Namco so they could completely overhaul it, and they did, letting it to be released almost 2 years later in February of 2005. So the devs did have to rush quite a bit, and I'm willing to cut them some slack there. But some things I just can't really ignore. The first problem I've noticed in this game is more likely a result of said rush. This story has some plot holes. Some pretty major ones. Some that I just personally cannot ignore for the life of me, no matter how hard I try. The biggest example I can think of this is when Star Fox chases Pigma into the asteroid belt. You see stray Wolfen fighters just drifting through the asteroid belt, and there's no sign of Star Wolf anywhere. Later on in Mission 7 on Corneria, Wolf and his team appear completely fine in their original Wolfens and save Fox's hide from the Aperoids. Weren't those totaled in Mission 5? Hello? Unless Star Wolf had backup ships, I'm not so sure I buy the fact that they somehow escaped unscathed. Then there is Peppy. To get the team inside the Aperoid homeworld, Peppy Hare, the team's veteran, rams their carrier ship, the Great Fox, into the shield of the Aperoid's homeworld. However, it is believed that Peppy perished off-screen when the Great Fox exploded, along with Rob 64. However, after you defeat the Aperoid Queen, you get this cutscene where the team reflects on the losses, but Slippy spots something coming their way, and it turns out to be Peppy Hare and Rob 64, who got into an escape ship and escaped the explosion of the Great Fox. Now, don't jump to conclusions. I am very glad that Peppy survived. He's the center of memes for the Star Fox fandom with the iconic "Do a barrel roll!" But it kind of feels like Nintendo was going to kill off Peppy there. Like, it was the end of the road for Peppy Hare. He had served his purpose, he had done his duty. But they didn't. Peppy and Rob jumped into an escape pod before the ship exploded. Sure, the barrel rolls lived to see another day. However, there's a problem with this. If the Queen only knows things from the things that she's absorbed, and Peppy's alive, he didn't get absorbed or anything like that, same with Rob, how is the Queen using Peppy's likeness to try and trick the Star Fox team? Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher to me, and something that kinda bugs me as well. No pun intended. Now, something that Star Fox Assault did end up doing is giving you options in terms of controls. There are 3 options shown here on the screen. It's pretty dang cool that the game gives you options in terms of camera and gameplay controls. You can use the control stick to move and use the camera and the A button to shoot, or you can use the control stick to move, the analog stick to use the camera, and the R trigger to shoot, and last but not least, use the R trigger to move, the analog stick to use the camera, and A to shoot. Yeah! It's pretty interesting to see all this incorporated into the game, but it is a bit of a hiccup later on. You can only pick the type of controls you want on the main menu. Once you enter the game, you cannot change it at all. You have to exit the game, go back to the main menu, and change it there. By the way, these controls apply to both a vehicle/on-the-rails combat and on-foot combat. So trying to find the right balance for them was definitely a play struggle for me, and I know I'm not the only one. It was a bit tricky to figure out, but once I settled on the dual stick option, aka the one in the middle, the second one, yeah, that one right there, I ended up being just fine. But I did try all three, and honestly, the second one was much, much easier for me. Another thing that did kind of bother me was the fact that the main campaign was a bit too short for my taste. It took me around 4, maybe 6 hours pushing it to beat the main campaign, and there are 2 hours to get all the medals and unlock Wolf in multiplayer, despite the fact no one wanted to play with me. Then I ran out of things to do. I wish the campaign was longer, there was more that happened, more levels, all that, you know, all that jazz. If the game was a bit longer, I feel like it would have been more replayable. But once you're done with the game, you're done. Unless you have friends willing to play the multiplayer with you. But if you don't, you're stuck playing the missions over and over until you get so bored you want to burn the game in a fireplace. Another thing that really grinded my gears, and is more likely just a me problem, is the Landmaster controls are more slippery than a grease-caked tile floor, especially on uneven terrain. Other than that though, it's fine for the most part considering that this was made in the early 2000s and the tech wasn't exactly the best yet. That one is just a small nitpicky thing, I'm sure, but I feel like those controls could have definitely been better overall. Maybe just a few minor tweaks here and there and it would have been a-okay. Another thing real quick. Navigating the Saria map sucks so damn bad in terms of navigation. Why? Because half of the flipping hatchers are underground and the entrances are hard to find. One thing before moving on, can we talk about how nuts some of these levels went? And by nuts, I mean that this game definitely had it out for its players at certain points. For me, the mission that I felt like had it out for me was Mission 7, War Comes Home on Corneria. This level kicked my ass for whatever reason. Sure, this is later in the game, so it's to be expected, but I swear to gosh, this level is just... it makes me grind my teeth. Between destroying the radar jammers and trying not to get swarmed by the Aperoids, who are also possessing the soldiers, by the way, the aim being a little bit wonky, and the possibility of getting stun-locked by the Aperoids if you encounter a giant group of them, then there's this segment where you have to fight General Pepper, which, by the way, sucks balls, because this dude is so freaking hard to fight. Then again, he's the General of Corneria for a flippin' reason, I guess. Of all the people the Aperoids could have possessed, of course it's the freaking General! I genuinely do not like that level, but replaying it is a lot more fun because I know what to do. In other words, this level is rough. If you slip up one time, and I mean one time, you gotta do it all again. Which just sucks because this level is a pain in the butt paired with an ass kicking. Then again, why am I complaining here? If Corneria is this bad, then the Aperoid homeworld is Corneria's difficulty on steroids with a dose of a sugar rush because holy smokes, that level sucks to deal with as well. Then again, it's the last level of the main campaign, so I guess it gets the pass. But aside from those small little nitpicky problems and the level difficulty thing most likely being a me problem, I don't think the cons outweigh the pros for me. I genuinely think that Star Fox Assault is a good game to play for a while, but eventually, like most other video games, you are going to get bored. It's just unavoidable. That's just the way some games operate, unfortunately. However, Star Fox Assault was much more than just a time killer for me. It wasn't just the reintroduction of Star Fox that I needed, it also really helped me re-tap into my creativity. But yeah, this game really helped me out with reawakening my love for game reviews and my creativity, which had been dormant for a while. It's a pretty good game. Sure, it has its flaws, like the controls sometimes give you a bit of trouble, there's plot holes, the campaign is a bit short, but for me, the game is still fun to replay every once in a while. I'm really glad that I replayed the game. But at the end of the day, this game does have some replayability problems. In essentiality, if you don't have some friends who are willing to play the multiplayer area with you, or if you don't get bored as easily, you're gonna, like, you know, want to put the game down after you beat the main campaign. At least, I certainly did. I genuinely can't believe it took me this long to make a video about Star Fox because I genuinely really love the series. Can't wait to make a video about the game on the Switch too. It'll get done when it gets done. Hello everyone, Ember Ray here. Thank you so much for watching till the very end of the video. If you ended up liking this video and you want to see more videos like this one, be sure to leave a like and maybe subscribe and turn on the bell so you get notified about all my videos. Also, huge thank you to my thumbnail artist Lucas for drawing this amazing looking thumbnail, and all footage belongs to their respectful owners. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye!